On today's episode of Talkin Townball, we have an interview with Detroit Lakes Ligers manager and Red River Amateur Baseball League president Brandon Johnson. We also talk a little bit about the waiver wire, and we'll once again tackle the Minnesota Mount Rushmore. Well, you'll get exclusive breaking news. Are the three of us signing with new teams? I don't know, maybe. It's March Madness, anything could happen. Head with us on down to the land of sky blue waters, where we will crack open a Hams, pair it with a giant salted soft pretzel, and enjoy this week's episode of Talkin Townball.
Under those stars where the heart beats strong, Minnesota diamonds where we all belong. Cheering voices carrying through the night, the soul of the state under stadium lights.
All right, welcome to episode 3 here on March 26th. Balmy 40-ish degrees outside. Some of the high school baseball teams maybe sneaking outside here in their second or third week, if you count arm care week, as a week of practice. But we got town ball stuff to talk about.
That's right.
Well, I'll jump right in. We kind of hinted last episode we would take a peek at the waiver wire. Mare folding in the Crow River Valley League. I did see they have released several players. There's one name in particular I was looking for. I didn't see yet. They have a pretty solid pitcher named Blake Tritch. He said his address and where he went to high school is Chaska, though. So if you're going to sign him, I believe he pitched up at NDSU. He's going to cost you some points, and we like our points.
We all know everything's about the points.
Yeah.
Everything's points related here.
I've already checked. He's out of my radius.
Yeah,
so I was kind of disappointed.
And that's the name I've been kind of keeping an eye on. And if I missed it, somebody can correct me. But I noticed the Holly Hawks had a ton of guys getting released here in the last few days, and fortunately, our guest Brandon Johnson, who is who's on the board of the Red River Amateur Baseball League, maybe he can give us a little insight on why so many guys from Holly are getting released. One in the North Star League, though, a new old North Star League team, the mighty Hamel Hawks, looks like they released at least 62 guys.
Yeah, I think the entire 40-man.
The entire 40-man roster. No, that was something we all kind of saw. Came through recently. Hamel Hawk after Hamel Hawk being released.
Because they showed up at North Star League meeting this fall, and they got voted in, and it makes sense. They'll be a Class B team, so I think that brings them to 6 now. But what was that? I mean, did they have an indication that they're just starting over, or what's?
I guess we can't speak for them, but being a new old team, like you said, they might just be restructuring what they want to do with their team. They are Class B, but maybe they're just switching up how they want to structure their roster.
Yeah, I guess I didn't get a particular vibe as far as, how they were going to come into this season, what sort of level their roster was at, but they did lean a little bit towards, a young team. Okay. So I'm sure there will be a lot of high schooler teams out of that area. I don't know exactly where that feeder system is. Is that, what is that?
It's Wayzata.
Wayzata?
That is, Hamel would be the Wayzata school district if they're using maybe Medina for population. I believe Medina has about 7,000 people. Part of the Medina is in the Orono district, but you're probably looking at Wayzata depending on if you have a connection with them.
Sure, and it's funny, every time you bring up Hamel, and I sometimes I do this with the the elder statesmen in around Litchfield, they will say the same thing as, well, Hamel used to be a heck of a team. And they were that summer team that a lot of like Gophers would go and play for.
So Hamel is always, I don't want to say always, and I'm not, and what I'm going to say isn't negative towards them, but there's always going to be questions. There's always been questions about Hamel and their roster.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody wants to tweet at us or tweet at me, I can find the old North Star League like record book where there's like a couple paragraphs on when they essentially kind of got kicked out of the league disbanded, and then they all met and started a new league, and Hamel brought an attorney to a league meeting. I mean, this is probably before you two were alive, and I might have been 1 or 2.
Sure.
This is late 80s, so this isn't like I'm throwing shade at anybody with them now. I don't even know what happened back then. And the story goes, sorry to cut you off, Jordan, is they had a direct line to the University of Minnesota because where Hamel is located, and it used to be, if you don't know, you could go border to border 15 miles. It wasn't ballpark to home address. It was border to border. So if the border of Hamel was within 15 miles of the border of Minneapolis, which it was, you could get anybody in Minneapolis. Well, the University of Minnesota is in Minneapolis.
That is correct.
So they were getting a lot of, before all the summer College Wood Bat Leagues started popping up. That was a place for Gophers to play.
Right.
And they could use their U of M address, and that's what kind of fired up, actually kind of what started today's version of the North Star League. It used to be the Right Star League, but
Right Star.
Anybody wants that couple paragraphs, I can send them out on.
Sure. And Hamel, they're not within that, that they used to be that A loop.
Nope. So if you go on 55, I mean, it's maybe 4 or 5 miles past Loretto. You're not even getting into Plymouth yet.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, Hamel for Delano, Maple Plain, Loretto, it's an easy drive to play them and for them to play us. But no, they're not inside the loop.
Yeah, interesting stuff. We'll have to see what's going on. Another thing, I think I don't know if they've officially assigned a manager. We'll try to dig into that as much as we can.
Well, we can help them out if you want to manage a team. We won't say what they're paying, but I think they're going to pay somebody to manage their team. So if you're in the West Metro and you just I don't know what level of baseball knowledge they're looking for, look them up, give them a call, interview. I don't know the process. Talk to their HR manager and get the details. But
yeah, they've got a nice spot there. They're nice field. They've got aspirations too of some bigger improvements there too. So
and on the topic of releasing, signing players, adding points, Ryan, I think you were added. You got tweeted at about a couple players that maybe Delano had signed.
Episode 2 drops.
What was this?
I think from our episode 2, you had mentioned something about signing day was on the 15th, and you named, or you said how many points your team had, and then someone had corrected you and
Who's
said
someone?
Someone I believe is one of our friends from Sartell from the Stone Ponies. Jeff. He let you know.
All right. Well, listen, Jeff. If you had 3 weeks worth of podcast experience like I do, you would know. And I'm having a hard time doing this with a straight face, not laughing because I'm really not mad. We recorded some of the interviews. Some of the things we record are actually a week beforehand, trying to piece it all together. So when I said what I said, at the end of the season, we were at 26 points. I was accounting for Marcus Reaver to turn 35, and we lose his 3 points at 23. Then a couple days later, it actually was real signing day, and we did sign a couple of players that gave us those 8 more points to put us at 31. But I one of them's having a really good college year, and don't know if he's Northwood League guy or some other College Wood Bat League guy. So it all depends on if they're on the playoff roster, if they come through. So Jeff, you're right. I'm not wrong though, and a lot of respect for Jeff. He goes to just about every state board meeting. He is very plugged in. State board meetings are right in his backyard. But the ones I've been to, I've seen him. He knows what he's talking about. It's all good. And I love that people are picking on us a little bit. We love the Twitter messages, all that stuff. The burners popping up is genius. We do have 2 rules. Number 1, just be an adult. And Jeff's just being an adult. I'm not saying he was. That is great. I love it. And
Absolutely.
just be an adult. And number 2, if you send us something, a direct message or something on Twitter, you are fair game to bring it up with on the podcast.
That's right. We have the platform. You've got your Twitter account.
Yeah.
and we've got our podcast. So
no, we're a pro Sartell Stone Pony podcast. So good luck this summer, Jeff, and send us anything else you want, and maybe we'll bring it up. But appreciate the call. Keep me on my toes.
It's good to keep Ryan in check. You don't want all of a sudden we're gonna have Doge looking into Delano Athletics. So,
well, Ryan, did you have another topic that you wanted to speak on, unrelated to points here or any of our Sartell friends? But you had another point you wanted to speak on.
I do. I want to direct it at you two. So, little background. In Class C, last few years, we've had, B and C. B has not been able to draft players. C has been able to draft. You've been able to draft 3 pitchers when you get to state. They can pitch. They cannot hit. This year, Class A, no draftees. Class B, you get to draft 2 pitchers. They pitch. They can't hit. Class C, you can draft 3 pitchers from the teams in your region that don't make the state tournament. Pitch, can't hit. Mm-hmm. Years ago, you were able to draft pitchers and catchers, and they could hit. And there's a rumor, and where there's smoke, there's fire, about for Class C bringing back the drafting of a pitcher and a catcher, and it sounds like letting them both hit, or maybe just letting the catcher hit. I don't know. I think it's going to get talked about. I don't know if it's going to get implemented in 25, but I could see it definitely get implemented back in 2026. You guys, I'm sitting in a room with, in my opinion, I got to make my Litchfield State Championship plug.
Here it comes.
The favorites, the powerhouse of Class C.
Right.
I'm sitting in a room with 2 guys who I think, in your region, on paper, you're in a very good position to make it to the state tournament, and that's a testament to what you guys have built the last few years. You're on the trajectory, in my opinion, to get to the state tournament. Drafting pitchers and catchers, go.
Jordan, I'll say this. I've only heard of this, and that's just crazy to think that this was. I don't know. From what I know now, it just seems like a wild idea.
Yeah, I would say, I guess my personal thoughts on this. I am a fan of the draft. I've been drafted myself, a handful of times, and I think it's a good. Well, let's put it this way: the current setup with drafting pitchers, I think, makes for better baseball. This isn't to knock any team or anyone's pitching staffs. I can even speak on my own here, but sometimes you get down to your 5th, 6th guy, and you might, if both teams are in that position, you might have a 15 to 14 4-hour-long game.
It can get ugly.
It's an ugly game, whereas you have the option to draft a pitcher, a guy from your region who maybe had a good year and their team didn't quite make it. It makes for a better product, I guess, a better baseball game. And when it comes to bringing back catchers into the fold potentially, I would lean no on that. And my reasoning for that is, I think, and maybe I'm contradicting myself a little bit here, I think you make it with your team. It's your guys. They are the ones that earned their way into the state tournament. And while I did say I think it makes for better games as far as pitching goes, I think to have a different hitter in the lineup's kind of a different deal. I think that's maybe weird. I don't know.
Yeah. So, what would you say is the basis for including catchers? Do people that are making the decisions, do they think that the talent level? I mean, obviously, pitchers are the 1A importance. If you have a good pitcher, you're going to be successful. But is it because they don't think that there's as much talent at that position?
Well, so this is how it used to be years ago. I mean, this is the town ball I grew up with, where you drafted pitchers and catchers, or you drafted a stud third baseman, and then you just stuck him behind the plate and batted him third in your lineup. Yeah. And the draft for baseman, and people like it, they hate it. That's what I grew up with town ball. So we've drafted Jordan before. We drafted Litchfield guys. I see them as friends, acquaintances. I check up on them, whether they're in college or, we drafted Carter Vogt from Buffalo years ago, and he lives up in Chisago Lakes area. So I, still touch base with him I love that it's made bonds, makes, kind of that town ball family bigger. And I love walking into Maple Lake, and they have an old picture of a state tournament they won in the 20s. And there's 2 draftees on that. I mean, so this has been around.
Right.
This isn't new.
Right.
But I will say, for Class C, if it's 32 teams, then you have to win 4 games, right? Am I doing my math right? Or 5? 5.
I think it's 5.
Okay, 5.
Yeah,
5 in 2 weekends, so it wouldn't be 6 anymore. But if you get a 32, okay, so you got to win 5 in the 3 weekends. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need as much pitching maybe as you used to, but you've taken a lot of the former C teams and put them in B, so that's a lot of the arms.
The talent, yep.
And maybe this is a way to... It also might be a way to just get new people into the state tournament, which I used to, which was... It's not a bad thing to, have more teams represented, I've always thought, was cool. When we were in the North Star League and we used to make a list or a no list, and it always bugged me to see who wasn't on there and who wasn't available, because it was like, ooh, you could really use them, or you go one and done. But again, you make those friendships, those bonds, with those type of guys. But it might just be a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
You start getting down to think about the teams that may or may not finish towards the bottom of your region. Is there going to be pitching there for you to grab with your third pick?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, maybe not. But is there, again, so-and-so's got a heck of a shortstop who's played 8 years of town ball and never sniffed a state tournament. Get him thrown behind the dish for three. You got to play 3 outs. The old rule was if you didn't start, you couldn't just have them come in and pinch hit. They had to play 3 defensive outs.
Sure.
So you'd see like, oh, so-and-so's hitting from, Loretto, the one year drafted like a Adam Gregg, and he didn't catch ever for him, but he did in the state tournament, or he went out and caught 3 outs, and then here he comes to lead off the next inning. So
yeah, the strategy there would be
it would change things dramatically. And yeah, you look at draftees and the amount of impact they can have. I mean, we've seen state titles won by draftees. We've absolutely seen that. We've seen teams get pushed a lot farther than maybe they should have been pushed because of a draftee. So the impacts there, like you said, with B now being that threshold has dropped. Yeah, that talent pool has adjusted, and it's definitely lesser. We're not seeing as many high level arms available as we did in previous years. You just go back, even just like Max Otto going to Buffalo last year. What an absolute, get for that squad. They already, they had a good hitting team, and here they add a 1A arm. Just a huge get there. But, a guy like that, the Delanos of the world, they're going to B now. These C teams are going to have to, you might see one guy in that first round that can help. Then you get into that second round, and it's a little bit more scarce. So,
and we have Class A listening right now, potentially saying, "Why don't you just get it done with your own team? we don't even have draftees, and you guys are talking about pitchers and catchers. You know,
Don't you have another Graham Lobsher to throw out there that
we all wish, but
who can throw in 2 games a day to win a championship?
strike out 40,
60 in 4 games or whatever it was.
Well, and you, John, with Litchfield, is it Besmer been catching for you?
Yeah,
And he's hits at the top of the lineup.
right.
Okay. And Jordan Niemela,
Nikolai,
he hits in the middle of your lineup.
yeah,
They're both playing in college. They're both very good athletes. So there's your decision.
Right.
Not that I'm guessing both of them could play left field, probably just as good as the guy. But at some point, if you do it, there's an odd man out. Mm-hmm. And then maybe, Buffalo last year with Sefker, he can hit. So if you draft a guy like that who can hit.
Buffalo, they have 3 very good 3 guys who can catch well too. I mean,
right. I'm just saying, like, you go to a game, and now you're having to tell 2 guys you're not playing in the state tournament game because so and so's pitching and he hits 380,
right.
and we're gonna move Nikolai to the outfield, and so and so's gonna catch from.
Yeah, I think there's definitely pros and cons. We'll have to weigh it out. Maybe we'll have our Twitter audience weigh that out for us. They can
Talk it out in the comments. But like I said, I think it would be such a dramatic shift. It probably wouldn't be welcomed. We're in this feel it out zone. I think we should feel it out. We should see what it feels like right now with that new C and B by itself, what they're going to deal with. But just kind of see how the year goes. Maybe give it a couple years. Just like with everything else, we have to see how it goes.
Well, I think once that draftee decision is made, they got to move on. The state board, they have to move on to the real tough decisions, and that's, are we going to introduce the golden batter like Major League Baseball might do?
Listen, Hayes, you were kind of leading the way with the North Star League CRVL All-Star Game, the past couple of years on the North Star side.
Yeah.
Well, now that's kind of our baby. Jordan and I have inherited your. By the way, your 2-0 North Star League team. We've
I'm
inherited.
him. I'm still him.
He's still him. But we've inherited that, and we've definitely talked about should we maybe do some interesting things, and I think that would maybe be the game where. Yeah, maybe we can implement something interesting.
You're saying don't introduce a golden batter or something like that in a game where there's like the playoffs are on the line or the state tournament. That
when
wouldn't
it
be
actually matters.
Be the time to do it.
No, I don't think so. So, yeah, lots of fun things, a lot of fun things to think about. Yeah, but I would probably be on the side of the conservative C League mind that would say, I think it's good where it's at right now.
They can implement. You don't have to do it. You can just say, I want to take 3 pitchers.
Oh, geez. I mean, if it's an option, I'm definitely going to look into it. But
and again, you draft big stud hitter, and then you get to the 7th inning, throw him behind the dish for 3 outs, and then he's leading off the next day. I mean, you can make it a positive thing all the way around.
Absolutely.
True. There's just going to be people out there, and again, tweet at us. We love it. Mm-hmm. That hate the draft. It is terrible. And that's okay. That's okay too.
Absolutely. Well, that was a fun talk. We're covering a lot of things in the spring here. We're going to keep an eye on that waiver wire. It's cool. Like we said, that the state board allows us to kind of keep up on all those transactions. We'll definitely keep an eye on it as we go and as we get closer to this 2025 season. With that all being said, we're going to jump into an interview with our guest, a manager from Detroit Lakes, the Detroit Lakes Ligers. It is Brandon Johnson. He joins us here in just a moment. We're excited to talk with Brandon and all the ideas and projects that he has going up there in Detroit Lakes. So without further ado, Brandon Johnson.
All right, we are back. Our guest today comes to us via Detroit Lakes, the manager of the Ligers. It is Brandon Johnson. He is also served on the board for the Red River Amateur Baseball League. Brandon, I heard though that you have a new title with the board up there. If you want to talk a little bit about that and how you got that new position.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on, guys. With the new reclassification that the state's going through, that I have a hunch we'll cover. Our former president Ryan Schock took on the role of commissioner. I think it's commissioner of District 5B. So with that, we had to shuffle some things around, and I was just the one that kept asking questions until finally someone said, "Well, why don't you take it on?" And so I said that sounds fine by me. So this will actually be my first year as president of the Rabble. It's a lot easier than saying Red River Amateur Baseball League.
Noted.
But the last 3 years, I've served as the treasurer for the board of the Rabble.
Well, congrats on the new position. That's awesome.
That's a big promotion.
I'm sure there's a pay increase too.
Multiplies by 3.
Well, that's good. It just seems like you know what's going on up there and in your area, and we need good people in charge of these leagues to keep everybody in line with the way that the landscape town team baseball is shaping up. And I want you to talk a little bit about that. How has the change here with going to A, B, and C going to affect the Rabble? What are you looking at for B teams? What are you looking at for C teams? And what's kind of travel going to look like for, especially when you get to playoffs?
Sure. So it actually, we've kind of been preparing for this the last couple of years with some decisions we made last year, especially. We've done have a league with multiple classes represented now for a couple of years with the Moorhead Brewers and the Moorhead Mudcats in our league. So we figured out a way to do that. So what we started doing last year is we split our league into a North and a South division. Gives us 5 teams in each. And last year it was, 4 C teams and 1 B team. Now this year it's actually switched to each league or each division will have 1 Class A team, 2 Class B teams, and 2 Class C teams. So it stayed perfect somehow in a balance. But what we do is you play the teams in your division 2 times for a 1-point game. And then we play the opposite division 1 time for a 2-point game. So for example, on our half, we're in the South. We have the Moorhead Mudcats Class A team this year. And then we also have the Hawley Hawks, who are Hawley's on the other side. Breckenridge Bucks are also the other Class C team on the South with us. But then we also have Fergus Falls in there. And then, oh my goodness, who is our other one? I'm blanking on it. But essentially, we have a split of 2C, 2B, and 1A in each side. So we ended up keeping that format going there. So it didn't change things for us much, because now when we go into playoffs, we have a way of seeding from our league, but it definitely is causing some frustrations for other teams, I should say, just in how they plan on seeding out their sections and districts without being able to really match up and play a whole bunch.
Well, some of that sounds great, and I know there's going to be a lot of challenges. I love the idea of the points. We talked with our guest on our first episode a little bit about how to get creative when you have a league that has A, B, and C teams and playing everybody once or playing everybody twice, and how to count that for more than just your 4 games for playoffs. So I love that you're out ahead of it doing that. I want to ask you, we talked about it in our first segment before we gave you a call. The Hawley Hawks, I noticed they had a ton of guys get released last week. What's going on with them, if you know anything about that?
They've had a handful of guys moving, coming and going. Hawley, geographically, it's kind of right in the middle of Fargo and Detroit Lakes, so not in any way to crap on the town of Hawley. I'm a big fan of Hawley. They've got one of my favorite places to sit and have a beverage, of course, but it's not a place where a lot of guys stay and live. So a lot of their roster has been guys from, again, Fargo or DL that they're just moving and doing other things. And I think Mason's just making sure he's being mindful of his points and not accidentally going over that magic eclipse to become a B team.
Right. I went to college up at Moorhead, and I knew a lot of Holly Nuggets, and they were sticking around in Fargo, or they were finding that lake country, or they were going down to the cities. And it is, like you said, probably a tough spot to retain, get guys back into town, or even just to get, that young teacher to grow up and be a baseball player in town. That's kind of a tough spot. You've got a little bit more of probably a pull, especially in the summers, but then again, the lakes can be, and we've seen this down here too in the West Metro, the lakes can be tough to deal with in the summer. They're a hard pull for some of these young guys.
Yeah,
exactly. And without essentially Detroit Lakes, this is not our first round of amateur baseball, I should say. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention we have a great history with the Detroit Lakes Angels over a number of years.
Okay.
But they came and went. And the last time they came in about 2007. And I played for them in my later high school years. And then when I left town, it got really bad, and the lakes were the reason
sure.
in a lot of ways. And it got really bad to the point where there's an article you can still go search where our local sports editor just decided to do an opinion piece and rip into the team about how he'd be at a game live tweeting about a game, and then he'd be getting replies from the starting third baseman, a picture from his boat going, well, it looks a lot nicer out here kind of thing. It's like, well, it got really bad. Part of when we brought the team back, that was one of the very important things we said, how do we make sure that doesn't happen again?
So how do you approach that? I mean, if you, when you're signing a contract for a younger kid, do you tell them, okay, there's a commitment here. We need you, and yeah, it's going to be nice. We're maybe going to give you all of July 4th. We'll give you that entire weekend, and that, give you a week around that. But otherwise, those June games, we need to get you out here.
Yeah. I think it first starts, and not to get on a soapbox, but we're
Sure.
big in establishing a culture.
Yep.
So I've been pretty blunt with anybody that wants to join on with us. I'm not looking for guys that play baseball. I want baseball players. So if it's a beautiful day out, what would you want to be doing? I would
Sure.
hope baseball is something you'd want to be doing. And I think that's step one. And then we always have a preseason meeting. I put the schedule out early, and I do that so guys can plan.
Right.
And I start, I give them that schedule and I say, hey, start requesting your dates off from work now. We, like everybody, we run into issues with commitment around regions. And the sad truth is one of the biggest reasons for that is the country music festival that we host here in Detroit Lakes.
Yeah. And I want to jump in here too quick. That's actually can be an issue for us down here. We have guys going up to Wii Fest all the time. So to have it be a local, thing, I'm sure the pull is the magnetism is strong up there with that.
Yeah. And so it starts pretty much when I give them that schedule, just establishing, hey, here's the games. I try to space it out. We're going to play a Wednesday game, and then we'll play one or two on the weekend. Because I think a regular schedule is important anyways, just to stay good at the game. But then it's also, if you're not planning on, last year the line was, if you're not excited to go to Hibbing for the first 2 weekends in August, we don't want you.
Sure. Sure.
The nice thing is we have a lot of teams in our area. There's a lot of teams people can go play for. And again, not a knock on them. But there are other teams that they just want to play when they play. And there's not really a long-term goal where me personally and the program we have, we look to not only make a trip down to the state tournament here, but make some noise while we're there. And so again, it all starts with the guys that we get in. We've been blessed that the guys that we're getting, they're dogs, and they just want to play baseball all summer. So it makes it easier for us to not have that. But then also, I do a lot of work to, from going back from my previous playing days when I wasn't managing, I've made it kind of my personal goal. I want this to be the best experience playing for an amateur baseball team that you can get. So there's a lot of things that we do beyond, I think, what the normal team would be doing, just to try to help out with that.
That's awesome. And you talk about building a culture, and I think that's really cool. And I mean, that's a draw for people who want to play town ball. Like, you're going there, you're going to have a great time, and you're trying to win, and building that culture, I think, is sweet. You touched briefly on, going from your your more so playing days into the managing type role. When did you take over as manager? How did that come about? Just give us a little background on that.
Yeah, so like I said, I played for the Detroit Lakes Angels. Well, even before then, I played for the Frazee Flames for a couple of years because they're close enough to DL. But I knew in high school I wasn't going to get playing time on the Angels. They had a really good team. Their first few years back in 2007, they went to the state tournament, so they were a good team. So I played for them in my early 20s while I was going to college at U of M Crookston and M State in Fergus Falls. So I went and played college baseball, and I came home and did that in the summers. And I just got to a point with the game, if you will, where it wasn't a priority anymore. I wanted to work. I wanted to do all this stuff. So my wife and I moved around Fargo, lived in Fergus Falls for a while, and I just kept having the itch to want to play. And so I got a teaching job and moved back to Detroit Lakes in 2018. And I said, what's going on? Where are the Angels? Why don't we have amateur ball? And they explained, well, here's what happened, and where they went and why they fell apart. And so I said for, my first couple of years while I was coaching Legion, hey, can we get a team going? I'd love to get a team going. And as all things in life, the answer seemed to be, well, if you want something done, you're just going to have to do it. So I worked with our coaches that were in our youth program, and they got me hooked up with the former assistant manager for the Angels, and basically said, okay, let's figure out the problems. Our one guy, Phil Kirshner, who used to manage the Angels, he got us hooked up into the rabble, got us our first schedule. We went and had a meeting, and they just said, here's your schedule, figure out a team. And so Tom and I ran with it. Tom was my assistant manager the last 3 years. He's actually stepping away this year so he can focus more on the youth baseball side of things. But it just kind of became a thing where it was go start a team then. And I said, okay. And when I started looking into things, found out how the Angels had went away. And from my understanding, we may have had potential playoff bans and penalties from the state had we tried to resurrect that team. And there was just a part of me that said, I want to give Detroit Lakes something fresh and unique that is purely Detroit Lakes'. Just because we're such a cool, small-knit community with a lot of the stuff that we have, that I felt it would be important to have things that our community could say, that's ours. Again, I know it might sound in a sense of knocking people, but there's just so many teams where you look at their logo and go, well, they just took this major or minor league team's logo and then they changed the colors, and that works for many. I mean, the Ada A's they're awesome for a reason, but I didn't want to do that. And the Detroit Lakes Angels, it just, wasn't looking to try to figure out licensing. So it started with creating the first logo, that the Gothic DL, which my students at the ALC that I were teaching at and I spent a lot of time designing together.
Nice.
And then after our first year, I was trying to do this thing where we were going to be the club. I just thought that had a cool ring to it, but it's really hard to explain to people.
Oh yeah.
So we came to realize, okay, we can't do the club. We need a logo, a mascot. And we threw around some ideas. We did some Facebook polls, talked to people in our community. And ultimately, just because of a uniqueness, a coolness factor, and then kind of a historical connection sense, we settled on the Ligers. Yes. And our team captain, Casey Ness, one of his buddies is Brian Giel of Dogfish Media, who does if you've ever been to a concert at US Bank Stadium and you walk in and it's all designed for that singer, Brian's the one that does all that. Well, he's a Detroit Lakes guy. And he said, hey, you guys got this team. Here's what your mascot is. I think this would be a cool logo. And he sent us the first incarnation of the Liger. And we said, that's great. Change the teeth. And he did that. And then we were set.
That's awesome.
Just didn't like the look. So it's become a baby project of mine, if you will, starting this team, but also trying to tap into the history and the pride that Detroit Lakes does have in our baseball around here.
Well, yeah, I mean, you talk about the pride, and I guess a liger, a cross between a lion and a tiger, a lion, a pride. There's connections there. Some
cool connections. I think it's cool you're connected to you said, a graphic designer, because if you could start something from scratch, why not make it awesome? And why not put yourself out there a little bit? And there are times when I think about, how I here in Litchfield, where I manage, we kind of have it's the blues, and it's just like, people always ask me, it's like, is that the color? Or are you just talking about a color? Or is that about the music? And I said, we don't know. We're just the blues. So there's we eventually, and this really just comes down to how, progressive, if your baseball board in town is really old fashioned, they're probably not going to love the newfangled mascots and logos, but I think that there might be a push to get a little bit more on that unique side. And it's teams like yours that drive that. It's you see something cool and kind of out there, and people get excited for it. It's hard not to see a cool mascot, cool logo, and not get excited. Yeah, I just want to say I'm envious of what you were able to do out of the gate there.
I appreciate that, and it's shouldn't be missed that we didn't make everybody in Detroit Lakes happy with that one. We had a lot of
like you said,
had a lot of former Angels, and again, I'm a former Angel, and
sure.
Admittedly, my mouth can get me in trouble, but another part of the reason was when we were the Angels, we were not Angels, and I wanted, on a community standpoint, to steer away from that too, so there wasn't confusion. And as public enemy number one, that was the reason for a lot of those shenanigans 10, 15 years ago. It was important that we start fresh and anew. But yeah, we definitely had some old Angels that were not supportive out of the gate, but I think they have come around, hopefully.
Well, it feels like, with the new name, the new logo, all of that, it's a good, like, family-oriented type of thing where you can get people out to the ballpark to come watch baseball games, and I think that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's we're one thing that sets us apart from a lot of amateur teams too is we started by registering as a 501c3 nonprofit organization, which helps obviously financially, if you will, but it really helped us center in on what our mission is. And our mission is, simply put, to use the national pastime to celebrate and engage our community. And that's what every home game is. When you see the social media and you see it be whether it's Bucks Mill night at historic Washington Ballpark or Schiller's House night, it's really more to give these different things in our community a platform to step up and take pride in. And we've been trying to renovate Washington Ballpark for a number of years now and utilize state funding, and that's kind of failed. So we're hopefully shifting now to do this little more community fundraise. But I felt a huge part of that was for people to go, well, I've never been there before. I wanted to change that. And I think we're starting to come around there. We've gone from, no team to we average probably 150 to 300 people for every home game now.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
That's a big number, to be honest.
And we've all followed your social media, and you guys do a great job with that. But yeah, like you said, the different type of promotional nights we see, whether it's a food truck coming out or a brewery or whatever, that's getting the community involved.
Absolutely. And like I said, that's the mission out of the gates. I mean, even, Bucks Mill Brewing, they started the same year that we did. And we, our community, again, I can't speak enough about how great of a community I live in, but we had an economic summit, which brings all of the business owners of the community together. And then they have different people give presentations for, if kids are going to do some special trip and they need money, or just new things are starting up. Well, the year that we started, the theme was so much new in 2022. And the speaker before me was the guys from the Bucks Mill Brewing. And so they got up and gave the speech. I'm like, holy crap, we got to work with these guys. And they thought the same thing. So as soon as this is done, we just beelined for each other and we're like, hey, we got to figure out something. So it's awesome to have them down the first base line at every home game. They're looking to bring more variety. They've been starting to can some of their beers lately. So now they're going to start bringing a little more variety in cans, and
sure.
And we're still trying to get that Liger Lager or Liger Lemonade going.
Yes,
very cool.
Yes.
We're almost there. There's one called DL Dorado, but if you go order a Liger Lager, they'll give you a DL Dorado.
Just slap a new label on that thing. It's not too difficult.
Exactly.
Can you just talk quickly on the park itself? Washington Ballpark, is that what you'd call that?
Yep.
Washington Ballpark.
Yep.
If I don't know if you had listened in our second episode, but Ryan Hayes over here picked Detroit Lakes Washington Park as a place that he would like to go and have a have a baseball game. He is going to go up to the Shindig this summer.
Yes.
You mentioned that, Ryan.
We will be there.
You will be there.
We played a Friday night game, 8:00.
Against who?
Hibbing.
Oh, wow.
That is, just so you know, I have been promoting that game more than my own games. I expect that to be an absolute heavyweight matchup. Hibbing, I mean, they're Class A now, but when they were C the last couple of years, they've got one of the best lineups I've seen, 1 through 9 from this part of the state. So I'm very excited for that Friday night matchup.
Well, yeah, no, Delano's no lightweight either, so you're probably gonna see, I don't know, maybe 10,000 fans that night. I don't know.
Hopefully, we'll find room.
Just quickly on the park itself. I had heard that that it's under some sort of historical listing. I mean, is that, like you said, getting state funding for that? Have you been hitting snags, and like what's the ultimate goal? What's your idea for what you want to improve upon at the ballpark?
So we have a city committee. I sit on the committee for the ballpark renovation. We've tried now 3 years putting in the state bonding bill, but it's failed just for different political reasons. Not to in any way make this political podcast, but just
Sure.
Political pandering has not gone our way. Put it lightly.
Okay.
But this ballpark was built in I want to say the 40s. It actually hosted a state tournament for amateur ball, and that was, I want to say, like the number 2, number 3 attended state tournament up until a few years ago. So it has a great history and a great lineage, but we are the only ballpark in the state of Minnesota, from my understanding, that is on the historic registry, which does make doing things difficult. We have a mass renovation we would like to do. Our grandstands they have a great look to them, but they are definitely decrepit.
Sure.
The seating is uncomfortable and not conducive to a relaxing baseball game. So we'd like to update the seating. That's one of our first holdups with the state historical folks, as they want us to keep that as original as possible. Well, we're trying to find ways to find middle ground with them. One of the last things we proposed was we would remove the back to every other seat, because people basically already have to sit and put their legs over that backing anyways. So I think that was something the state went for. But beyond that, I mean, we're talking completely renovating and gutting the grandstands themselves. Right now I'm sitting in the clubhouse, which is in the middle of the grandstands here, and I like it, but it could be a little bigger and have a little more space, of course.
Sure.
But we're also looking to put in a ticket booth, change the fencing on the outside so everybody can only come in through one gate. Right now you can access the field by anywhere from 2 to 4 gates, depending on how it's open, which makes it challenging sometimes to host things and get people to go through. We also, besides that, our concession stand needs to be replaced. That was, I think, built kind of hastily in about 2009. And so that the flooring on that is coming out and rotting underneath. So that just needs to be taken out. So it'll be made smaller and flipped towards the grandstands. One of our big things is to make it much more handicap accessible. I mean, there are ramps on the sides now, but I wouldn't want to see anybody try to get a wheelchair up them. So looking to make it more accessible for folks like that, adding a watching area, if you will, an elevated watching area on the first base side of the grandstands, and then up on the top, removing a couple of rows of seating and putting kind of like a flat mezzanine area up there, and then adding another batting cage and renovating the bullpens. I mean, when we're talking renovations, it's everything ground to sky, even new lights. Our lights, I'm not kidding you, to get them fixed, we'll have a bulb go out. We have to rent a special lift from Fargo to come and do it. And I believe the light bulb itself is like 4 figures. So it's just to have this cool historic ballpark is nice, but when things break, they are difficult to fix and expensive. So the state historical folks will let us keep, or they want us to keep the original light towers, but we can retrofit with new LED lights. So that's what we'd be looking to do. So, I mean, the end goal is to keep the overall charm of the park, but to restore it to more what it looked like when it was first built. And then the other thing, I'm not the biggest fan of it. I know I'm in the minority, but they want to turf the infield as well. I don't love it, but I'm not going to complain as the guy that ends up dragging the field and being around. But I will say, my favorite memories in the summer the last few years have been dragging the field with my kids or whoever's kids wants to ride on the drag at the end of the night as I'm,
Ryan, Jordan, and I, we all have our own little personal checklists or, dreams that we have for each of our own ballparks. But it kind of seems like you're at you have a different sort of disadvantage or a different problem that you're going to have to overcome. It sounds like quite the, overtaking, but it sounds like you're the right guy for the job for sure. You sound super motivated and that's the type of guy that requires that sort of change in a community. So that's super exciting to hear about. I'm excited. I have no plans for games in Detroit Lakes. Ryan, you're going to have to give us your review once you get up there.
Absolutely.
Let us know how cold the beer is up there. That's going to be the number one worry up there. But what we wanted to do, or what I wanted to do quickly, just to kind of get a better understanding of baseball up north. You mentioned kind of what your league looks like. I just wanted to give you kind of a rapid fire of best of up north. So don't even have to be necessarily in your league. I just want to know quickly what you think are the best of a certain category. Okay.
All right. I'll do my best.
Yeah, I'm going to lead off with this. If you were to go and say, who has the best infield surface? Who does well with their upkeep of their field?
You guys talked about it actually. Perm over there at Tuffy's. Perms, it's a very good, nourished, natural field, but they uniquely have like a black dirt, which is just a fun little trick to it. But I would say Perms is my favorite infield.
Kind of like Target Field kind of has like a darker dirt to it, like an agar lime. But
we have that in Delno, that Dura Edge.
So
maybe it's that. Otherwise, I think it's Putts in St. Cloud has kind of that black dirt type of infield.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Very cool. All right. So perm on the infield surface. How about this? If you were to, let's say, go to an away game and you knew that a lot of your fans were going to be there, what away site would have the best experience for fans? I mean, seating and just ambiance.
Oh, man. We luck out. New York Mills has a really good facility, just a bit away from us. Weirdly enough, Ada has a really cool home run porch in dead center that doubles as their batter's eye. So I think Ada, just how it's tucked back in the woods, has just kind of the perfect little Americana ambiance to it.
Very cool. Very cool. Ada. Yeah, it's like that's a field I'm going to have to Google later tonight, because I'm always interested whenever you get any sort of outfield seating. Like you said, it's some sort of home run porch out there. That's very cool. Next rapid fire question: if you were going to go and say get a burger or just the food altogether, where would you want to go up north?
Are you talking outside of Detroit Lakes? Because I'm super biased.
Oh, geez. You know what? I'll let you throw out a little Detroit Lakes love, but I want another tidbit of info from another spot.
Maybe a runner-up.
Yeah, that's all right with me. Obviously, Detroit Lakes has plenty. Not going to complain what we have to offer, but I would say, and this actually comes from my being a basketball and football official.
Okay.
The Royal in Park Rapids. If you get a chance to go to the Royal, go get yourself a Royal burger with fried onions.
Oh my God!
It's as good as it comes.
A named burger. This is 2 episodes in a row.
We're getting hungry.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds awesome. All right, and can you just give us a quick? Maybe give us like 2 to 3 guys that are kind of standout players up north. I mean, guys that say if they're on the mound that day, it's going to be tough, or they're hitting in the 3-hole and they're a tough out. Can you give us, 3 guys that are, regardless of team, who are just standout players up there?
I can do that. I'm going to lump the first one as 2 guys because it's actually a pair of them. The Dykos, Josh and Jake out of Bluffton.
We know them
fantastic.
well. Yeah,
I figured they'd come up.
Sure.
I I think Josh or Jay, I can't remember which one. One of them's pitching in Australia right now. And then the other one is finishing up at Crookston. And I think there was just a poll where he's like the 5th best pitcher in Division II baseball, which I can believe. He's fantastic. Going a little more our direction, up in Dilworth, they've got a hitter they've got a couple of hitters, put it that way, but Sterling Hafey, he can swing. Sterling is, utility-wise on the field is fantastic. Ada's got a slew of Fetting brothers that are all really good. Blake is the oldest, and he's put a couple balls into that home run porch.
Sure.
Not off me. He goes a little more left field off me. But and then, gosh, I could keep going. Bemidji, they've got a lineup. Connor is their starting shortstop. He has hit some home runs with, as the kids would like to say, the best, with some swag that I have not seen. He hit a home run ball in regions when we hosted a couple years, and off the bat he then saluted it, which I'm a big fan of. Oh my
gosh.
So he's that kind of guy. We have just so many guys like that up and around here. I can tout my own guy, Blaine Henderson. We have one of the better pitchers in the area. He's getting married this summer, so he's going to be kind of sporadic. But Blaine is a hard-throwing righty who's very focused on school. So he hasn't used up any of his innings in college, but would very much be a Division II starting pitcher if he so chose to go do that. So we've got some ball players up here like that.
Well, that's really cool. That's something that we just you don't hear. Obviously, if they're coming down, they're playing state games. We're hearing of them. We played at Litchfield. We played Bemidji. We got a little dose of that shortstop. I don't think we got him out that entire game. So, so we're definitely aware now. But good to get some names out there, and that's kind of. It pairs up with what we want to do here, is just kind of give more of a spotlight to our northern, and eventually we're going to dig south too. We're going to go down and try to get some interviews for some managers down south as well. So, but yeah, appreciate you giving us some tidbits of information under the rapid fire questions I gave you.
So Brandon, Ryan here. I do have sometimes I come up with goofy, unique scenarios and or questions because I drive all the way out to the studio, the hidden studio here in somewhere in Meeker County. We're not going to disclose where we're located. But, Brandon, has there been ever talk, and you brought up the Detroit Lakes State Tournament in the 40s. I think the last team the last area north of St. Cloud to host state tournament would have been 94, Wadena and Perham. Has it ever come up having a site or some sites in your area that would be willing to host a state tournament? Or now that we have gone from 2 to 2 with a third site to 3 full sites and 3 with a fourth, has there ever been anybody up there in the last few years that says, how can we throw our name in the ring, or who can we team up with, maybe even down in our area, with like a Litchfield or Dass a little further west of the cities? And we have a full weekend of games at a fourth site now. Is there anybody ever just kind of said, why can't we do that in Detroit Lakes? I know you and I talked a little bit that the hotel situation probably going to be tricky when we come up there at the end of June. But, there's 8 games that are going to be played in Glencoe this year, and they're the fourth site. Why can't we do that in your area one weekend?
You're reaching into the mind that says that. I'm the guy that's been wanting to do that. I've actually, in a very non-official way, would love to put in a bid for us, Perm and New York Mills to host. The 3 of us are separated by about 25 miles. And all 3 of us have the amenities, the lights, field surface, teams willing to put the work in. I have very proactively been trying to have these conversations up north to put a bid in for 2-3 years now. So 100% would love to be gifted the opportunity to do that.
Well, just to throw that out to anybody listening, I think 2026 they are taking bids. So I would love to hear that bid get thrown together, or I would challenge anybody down in the metro and just the outer ring suburbs or rural area to say, hey, if we need a fourth site, let's think outside the box and give them a call and give you an opportunity at least to prove we can do this. And I'm sure you can. I mean, so a little call out to everybody out there.
Like I said, I'm fully on board. I know that we'd be willing, and I have talked to Jason from Perm, their manager. It's something that we've mulled over. We've just kind of figured we need a good third site. New York Mills seems to be the answer. We could go as far west as Moorhead, but their situation for using the field becomes a little more tricky than the flexibility we have in DL or Perm.
Gotcha. Well, it was awesome talking with you today. Thanks again for being on the show. I did have two very quick questions for you.
I was going to say, there's no way we're going to wrap this up without talking about, Jordan mentioned before the interview, the mustache.
Yeah, question one would be the mustache. You have one. It's glorious. We want to know what your decision making into that was. And then question two, you can follow up. The Ligers mascot, does it have a name? We need to know the name.
Well, yes, my mustache, it's there.
It exists.
It exists. It's been about 3-4 years since I've gone in public without a note comment on it. So I'm relatively used to it. Like I said, I officiate football and basketball. So all season, that's the first thing when I walk up the field or the court that's said. It started with this team. And I don't want to give away too many secrets. I'll just say there's been some rule changes at the MLB that I really hope they don't put in at the amateur baseball level, because I don't need my hands checked at the end of every inning I pitch for sticky stuff. The mascot, yes, Larry. Larry has a name. Larry is actually named after our former mayor, Larry Buboltz, but Larry the Liger, he has a name. He's got his own social media page. That guy is active on Twitter.
What's the handle? What's Larry's handle?
I believe it's just Larry Liger.
That's awesome.
Celebrity. And you guys you do have the full mascot outfit. We've seen the videos. I think there was one posted early on, especially when you guys announced Larry. He walked into some sort of barber shop, I want to say.
Yes. Yep. So that was a partnership with Schiller's House. They've been one of our biggest sponsors since day one. But yeah, Larry had to get his mane checked up on, and Katie down there took care of his mane. She got us a nice brush for him. Larry, there's some jokes, and I guess if you go online, you can find your own jokes about him. I asked some of the boys what I should talk about tonight, and they all said the same thing, but then some said, maybe we should shy away, but I'll put it this way. Larry has had a long road of recovery. We had one incident with him, and he has definitely changed his ways. But no, in all seriousness, we had a sponsor step up and say it would be cool to have a mascot. I said, I will order it if you pay for it. They did. But now, as sad as it is, it's hard to find someone to wear that. But it's definitely a sales pitch thing when we go out to make new partnerships, and I just let every business know this is at your disposal. If you want to have Larry show up in a video, let me know. We'll make it happen. So
that is so cool, and you've got to be one of, if not the only team with that whole getup. That's awesome.
I know there's at least one, because I was inspired by a tweet someone sent out. I don't think it's Loretto, but it's somebody with a blue bird has one. And the tweet said something like, they got to be the only ones. And I said, for now.
For now. I'll say this, with Delano going up there in June, maybe we can get Hayes fitted into that thing and shoot some content with it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Hey, and I got to say, we talked about logos earlier, and the Delano A's with the moose, that is fantastic. Does the moose have a name yet?
Francis.
It's
like, you didn't know that?
Francis the Moose. He's Francis the
awesome.
Moose. Yeah. So we had a local artist. We found a couple really huge baseballs that are kind of monument baseballs, and she painted them on there. I don't know if I've put that on social media yet, but she did an amazing job. It's pretty cool. But yeah, Francis the Moose. Well, maybe
one
day he could maybe meet Larry.
Get a buddy pick or something.
Absolutely.
I'm all for it. We'll tell Larry to keep his teeth to himself.
Awesome. Well, I think that'll do it. We kind of covered everything we wanted to. And is there anything else you wanted to throw out there? I mean, obviously, with your social media out there, I think we've kind of covered that. If you're not following Detroit Lakes or even Larry the Liger, definitely do that if you're listening in. But yeah, Brandon, do you have anything else you want to toss out there before we wrap up?
I'd actually just a thanks to you guys. I listen to a lot of baseball podcasts throughout the day, talking baseball, all the John Boy ones, I should just simply say. And
sure.
I've been thinking, gosh, we need a podcast, and I thought Talkin Townball needs to happen. So when you guys did this, keep doing it. Keep doing this. This will be fun to see what you guys can turn this into. I'm excited about
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. Well, we're still in our rookie years, so there's the potential is there. We just got to keep at it. And we appreciate the kind words. I think with that, we'll kind of wrap this thing. Once again, Brandon Johnson with the Detroit Lakes Ligers. Thanks again, Brandon, for joining us, and we're excited to see how your year goes up there.
Thank you much, guys. We'll see you Delano folks in June.
Sounds good, Brandon. Looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Thanks, Brandon.
All righty. Have a good one.
Hey, you too, guys. Thank you.
Yep, see ya. And that was our interview with Detroit Lakes Ligers manager Brandon Johnson. Good to have you back here. Guys, we had a pretty good response to that Minnesota Mount Rushmore in our second episode. Twitter, we had a little poll out there, and we tried to decide, okay, who had the best picks in that week too for stadiums or parks that we haven't played at yet, but we want to. And Ryan just blew us out of the water.
I'm him.
Rigged.
I'm him.
Absolutely rigged. Yeah. Twitter obviously inspired by Ryan Hayes' choices, but it's a new week, which means a new Mount Rushmore. We've decided to continue the bit and make it an every week thing. We're gonna say this is kind of an off-season content option for us.
Little time filler before the action really gets going.
Yeah, I mean, we have plenty to talk about, but this has been fun. You just kind of get different towns involved and different teams and highlighting different things. So a lot of fun. This week, Minnesota Mount Rushmore is going to be, we teased the heck out of this in the intro with Jordan. If we were to sign our release right now and we had the option of signing with any other team in the state, who would it be and why?
Well, I think there was a one rule to this was we could not pick any of our three teams.
Right.
I think that was the only rule.
That might have been the only rule. And I'll say this too. I think maybe it's because we're a little too, I guess we are aware of our North Star League teams. I don't think any of us are picking North Star League teams.
No, we're staying out.
We're staying out of the North Star League. But with that being said, I think we're going to randomize our draft order. And
Winner of last week doesn't go first, huh?
Winner of last week. Actually, you know what? You can choose where you want to be.
I want to go first.
You want to go first?
I'm going to go first.
Okay, perfect. Ryan Hayes, the winner of our first ever Mount Rushmore last week. You are going to go first. Your first round pick. Let's hear it.
I am going to go with the Dundas Dukes.
Dundas Dukes.
So, little backstory. Growing up, went to a lot of state tournaments, and I mean, this is aluminum bat era, and Dundas was up there as the class of Class B with the Cold Spring Springers, Chaska Cubs, and obviously the Meesville Mud Hens. So I saw a lot of Dundas when I was growing up. And even though I was a Maple Plain kid, technically going to Orono schools, I loved the black and orange color scheme. And then I became a Delano Tiger in high school. But I just loved the name The Dukes. I loved the color scheme. I loved the uniforms. I think the first time I went to the ballpark was in 2002 when they hosted the state tournament. And then we beat St. Patrick there in 2022 on a walk-off homer on the state quarterfinal. So there's a little bit of that going for them. But, yeah, I would be a Dundas Duke.
Now, Does the quality of the field, does that play into your recruitment?
For the number one pick, absolutely.
Absolutely.
That is about the smoothest infield you are going to find in the state of Minnesota. And I would put it against potentially a target field in a CHS. It's legit.
Speaking very highly.
Dundas is tight. They do a great job there, keeping that field in tight order.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been there, I haven't played there, which is crazy to say, but boy, from afar, everything just looks impressive. And yeah, I think with Hayes as a 4-hitter, they're probably going to go far.
Yeah. Are they A now, or are they still B? Do we know what they are?
They're A. They're Class A.
They're Class A.
Class A champs with Hayes batting cleanup.
That's right. You know what? I had the first pick last week. I'm gonna let Jordan take this second pick.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. With the second pick of the draft, I'm taking the Sox Center Titans. They are a close-knit group of guys, from what I can tell. I've got a college buddy that plays on that team, Shane Traddles. He's a character. He's really fun. Unfortunately, he tossed a gem against the Loretto Larks, the team I was drafted by last year, to beat them and knock them out of the tournament. But they're cool guys, cool team. They have a team bus. Not a lot of teams have that.
Team bus, really.
Team bus. I don't know how they came across it or found it or whatever, but that's what they took to the game. I thought that was cool. And they also wear teal, and that's just kind of dope.
Sox Center. I mean, first off, what a pick. They play in a league that stretches, I think they go and play all the way up to Fergus Falls even, maybe?
Well, it's a good thing they have a bus then.
Yeah, they're putting a lot of mileage on 94 there, but a team that we've definitely seen make some noise at the state tournament as of late.
Yeah, I would think. I mean, they are a solid team. I would think they make a good run at it again this year. I think they lost out to Jordan following the Loretto game, but no shame in losing to the runner-up, I guess.
Sure.
They kept Loretto in Class B. Loretto was at 35 points.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the truth.
So had Loretto won that game, they were potentially a Class A
I mean,
team.
I don't know the purge rules. I'm sure somebody will tell us on Twitter.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely.
Well, I'll kick it over to you then.
Yeah,
for the
third pick, first round. My first round pick is going to be the Cold Spring Rockies, and Ryan mentioned with the field at Dundas. I mean, Cold Spring, iconic field, great surface. Had the pleasure of playing there a few times. Not only growing up, but now, and they just continue to make that thing better and better every year. But my main reasoning behind this pick is that Cold Spring Rockies, they were a team that we used to go to a tournament out in Brookings, South Dakota, every June, and fun time. Obviously, getting away for a couple days, away from everything in Minnesota, to play ball and have a good time. Yeah, we definitely had a good time, and we'd meet up with a lot of Rockies late at night, and we'd be roaming the streets of Brookings together. So got to know them really well, and really good group of guys. David Jonas is the manager over there, player manager. Great guy. I also would say their uniforms are top tier. I love what they've got going on. They have got some really nice kits. They heavy on the black, a very black centered kit.
They kind of have that White Sox South Side City Connect feel on one of their unis. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And to just kind of piggyback on top of saying, they're a good group. We went out to the Stearns County Classic for 1 year. The Litchfield Blues, we got out there for 1 year. The Cold Spring Rockies they are perennially invited back to the Stearns County Classic. There's a reason for it. I think that they don't mind indulging themselves a little bit in the in a cold beverage or two. So
They have some fun.
and they have this little relay race. I guess you could call it the Beer Olympics, and out on St. Martin's Field. And I think the Cold Spring Rockies have won the last 3 years. So they're an impressive team on and off the field. So good group of guys, and that's my first rounder. So I guess it comes back to me. I have to keep talking. I don't know. Like
snake draft rules. You got to
snake
go
draft
again.
rules. Absolutely. The next pick, a lot more personal for me. My second round pick is going to be the Ashby Athletics. Small town. I'm sure a lot of people are, wondering, okay, well, where is Ashby? Well, Ashby's right off of between our Sauk Center and Fergus by Alexandria. You got the Ashby Athletics out there, and the reason why my entire family is from Ashby. My parents went to high school in Ashby. All my grandparents are up in Ashby, cousins, everything, aunts, uncles. This is kind of my second home. They have that. They have a high school field. They have this sports complex. It's a football field, baseball field. So center field is one of those 470-yard center fields. It's a beautiful little park, renamed after my grandpa. So I have to, of course, mention that at Chuck Anderson Sports Complex. It would be mainly, like I said, this is a very personal pick. You maybe wouldn't hear much about the Ashby Athletics otherwise, but it's the only little tidbit I'll give you on their field. If you know the term for that little stretch of dirt from pitcher's mound to home plate, I think it's like a keyhole path.
Landing strip?
Yeah, okay. That might be the lesser
Let's
known
keep it
one.
PG,
Yeah, let's keep it PG. I think it's called a keyhole path from the pitcher to the catcher. They have that stretch of, I think, is it Comerica with
Correct.
Detroit?
in Detroit,
They have the same thing. Ashby has a path like that. Their high school team are the Arrows. That path extends beyond their mound, or is part of their mound, and then it creates an arrow. I mean, from the mound to the home plate area is one big arrow looking thing. If you're curious, go on Google Earth or Google Maps, check out Ashby. You can't miss the field. It's probably a third of the town, and check out that whole setup. But Ashby Athletics, that would be my second round pick if I were to have to sign at another team. So with that being said, Jordan, back to you.
All right. Well, we're right now we're checking out a picture of this keyhole. It's pretty awesome.
That's fire.
Yeah, isn't
that's
that great?
Fire.
In terms of uniqueness to a field, you probably can't get more, unique with a mound and a hitting area,
Right.
your batting box area. So,
Well, yeah, I'll keep it rolling here. My second pick, I'm going to go with the Meesville Mudhens, perennial NBA powerhouse team. They play at the Jack. It's an absolute beauty of a ballpark. They're the defending Class B champs, and now they'll get a chance to prove it in A. But I've got some friends on that team, and really I'd be looking forward to heading over to Kings Palace or Weiderholtz after the game for a burger, some refreshments, and I think that's just what Townball's all about.
yeah, you can't go wrong. I mean, we talked about it last episode, but boy, if you're a sucker for a burger, that Kings, what do they claim? They have like 7 billion burger
I think
options?
that's what the menu says, 7 billion, yeah.
And I'm going to say something controversial. And the real ones in that area know. Dan's in
Yep.
New Trier has
Yeah.
the better burger.
All right.
Oh boy.
3 miles from Hampton.
John,
it's not even close.
We might
Follow
have
him on
to,
Instagram. It's
You know what? Breaking news. We're gonna throw this up on Twitter for a little poll. We are gonna list the two places and their burgers, and we'll let you decide.
Yeah, I mean, Hayes said the real ones. No, I mean, I didn't know. So now I'm really curious.
Guess
I'm
you're not a real
I'm
one.
not a real one.
You're just
No.
a casual.
No, I mean, I've driven through the town. Meesville, great ballpark. You got your bar there. You got your church. It's as typical a town ball town as you can get.
Yeah, and for as long as, town ball's been around, they've just been one of those teams that people talk about. People like to go out there and watch games, and they play some good baseball.
Absolutely. Well, that's a good pick.
Well, that actually leads pretty well into my next pick, the old church ball field bar.
Okay.
And I'm going to keep it. I'm going to go to the Stearns County League and play for the Farming Flames.
Okay.
So that I can spend my Sundays in the Stearns County League. Go over to Trapper's Pub and Grub, and then literally walk to the field. I mean, I think it's one of those towns. I don't think they even put the population on the sign. And we went up there for a tournament in 2018, and everybody was camping out, tenting out, basically next to the cemetery, next to the church, next to the field. It's like maybe 350 to dead center too. So I might be able to sneak one out here in my old age.
Yeah.
It's Schlepper Brothers Field, and we have Adam Schlepper on the Delano Athletics. His grandpa is Joe Senior, the one the field in Shakopee is named after him, and then he has some all the Schleppers are originally from that Stearns County area, so they put a lot of time, effort into the field up in Farming. So they're the Flames. They kind of have like a red blue jerseys, but sometimes they wear that cool powder blue. So I'll go Farming.
Farming. I've seen videos. I've seen pictures. The away bullpen. I swear, if you fall off the bullpen to your left, you might hit a tombstone or something. I mean, you're literally in that graveyard over there. It's a unique setup, and great choice.
I like it.
Well, and back to me then.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Third round
draft.
here.
Third round. This one's a little bit out there, but I'm going to go up north.
Okay.
And we know last episode I was sitting on the beach on Rainy Lake.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't, and it's not sunny there, I'm sure. But I'm a beach guy. I'm a lake guy. You can have the mountains. You can have the desert. I do like the cornfields in Iowa. I love that drive. But I'm a beach guy. And I'm a lake guy. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go play for the Vargas Frazee Loons, a little bit south of Detroit Lakes, but if you pull that up on a map, it's just water all around. So I could just sit on the dock and then go to the ballpark just do that all June and July.
It's the perfect setup.
Don't know much about them besides that they're kind of in lake country this state, and that is good enough for me.
Good enough for you. What did you say that their mascot was?
The Loons.
The Loons. I mean, they're playing right into it. You're probably... I could see Hayes, basically hopping off the pontoon and jumping into his cleats. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be the life.
Absolutely.
I think I would bet for their players that is the life. That's what they're doing. So
you play a little yacht rock out on the lake. Play a little yacht rock pregame. Heck yeah, just let it flow.
Well, it's back to me then. I might be cheating a little bit here, but you know what? If you ain't cheating or whatever,
right?
I'm gonna go with, and this is a little out there, any Stearns County team that hasn't already been picked. I know that's not one team, but I'm doing it. I don't care.
I think you have a lot of options, and I think that Farming was the only one claimed.
Well, okay, so every other team not Farming, that's who I'll go with.
Sure.
You've got St. Martin, Lake Henry, El Rosa, Greenwald, New Munich, Spring Hill, you name it. There's a million of them. I've got a ton of former Ridgewater Warrior teammates on a handful of these teams, and they're all really fun guys. It'd be fun to get a little reunion going. And like you said with the Cold Spring Rockies and how they're invited back to the Stearns County Classic every year because they have such a good time. Mm-hmm. We've also played in that tournament one year and it was awesome. So I feel like just the whole vibe was really sweet. The post game beer Olympics or whatever official name it has.
Sure.
That was a ton of fun. I just don't think you could beat it.
A lot of places will claim like, oh, our town balls, is different or better in some ways. Well, yeah, Stearns County, they live for it. They're shutting down towns to still play these games, and you don't see that as often anymore. Yeah.
One of the cool things about that area is when we did play in the farming, I think it was the FBI class.
The FBI. Nice.
Farming Baseball Invitational. I think we played a first game, and then we had 2 games off before our second game. So Steve Island, our manager, and then Adam Yannick, who does everything for us out in Delano, especially when it comes to the ball field and social media and our website. We drove, and it took us 1 hour, and I think we stopped at 5 or 6 ballparks before we got back to farming. And I mean, it's just they're all right there, which is very cool.
It's we were on our way to. I think we were playing in St. Martin that day, but like on our way, we stopped in Roscoe because it's just cool ballpark kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and it's really sweet. So we went on a little tour too, but ton of fun. I think, are we on? Is this the last pick?
Oh yeah, this is it. I am the last pick. This is our 3rd round pick. Like we said, it's the last, but it is definitely not the least.
There's no Stearns County teams left for you to pick.
None on the board. I just notched them all off. They're all gone. My 3rd round pick is going to be for the Bird Island Bullfrogs. Doc Nagel's squad out in the Olivia area. What is that co-op over there? The Bold.
It's Bird Island, Olivia, Lake Lillian District.
Okay.
Bold
District is
stands
the
for.
D. Okay.
Correct.
Gotcha. Yeah, nice little area down there. To be honest, we make that trip. I've made that trip quite often to go down that area, but it's a lot of times to swing down to Morton for the casino. So I am a frequent visitor of that area. Bird Island, great spot. A lot of baseball people down there. Doc has gotten that squad pretty far in the last couple of years. They've had some really talented high school teams out of Bold. I believe they won a state title. Is that correct? Can anyone
high school
back?
title?
Yeah, high school title.
Not sure.
I want to say they did. And I say that because when Bird Island in 2023, when we were hosting, and they went to the finals against Maple Lake, when they beat out Buckman in the semis, I want to say one of the younger guys got interviewed and said, "Yeah, we're this group that's stuck together. We won a state title in high school, and we've just stuck it out." So they've got a good young core, talented players, really nice field. Obviously, that's one thing. You've got, like we said, Doc Nagel, a state board member, who is managing that squad out there, but they've invested a lot into their ballpark, a great spot. And the one thing that sticks with me is if you go to they only play home games on Friday nights in the summer. Okay,
Nice.
the Bullfrogs, and there's a reason for that because they always get a keg of beer for the post game.
Perfect.
So if you're invited, if you're lucky enough to get invited to Bird Island on a Friday night, just know that there is a keg of beer waiting for you after the game. So
making note right now, schedule.
yeah,
Friday
yeah,
night
you're
game,
gonna want to
Bird
mark that
Island.
down for sure. So yeah, that's my 3rd pick. So that is our that's gonna conclude our Minnesota Mount Rushmore, and hopefully we can persuade some more Twitter followers to vote for Jordan and I, because Hayes is, of course, doing basically a victory dance right now. So
Yeah, I know he won't say this, but I know Hayes has probably 40, 50 burners out there, and they all voted for him. That's I would assume.
very
that
typical.
was one of the criteria about joining the Crow River Valley League is how many burners do you have? 20. Perfect. That's the minimum.
That first CRVL meeting, like we've mentioned, we've name dropped Kip Kovar last episode. We'll do it again. But as you get asked about the burner accounts, he's probably in the corner cringing, taking notes, because there's a few people that that like to comment on Kip's work online.
Kip does a great job, reporting on all sports in the area. But yeah, they tend. He's kind of like a magnet. They tend to. I don't know.
They find his tweets and they give him a tough time sometimes, but he does a great job. So. Yeah, that's gonna be our episode 3, Mount Rushmore. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Honestly, with that being said, we're looking to probably wrap this one up. Do you guys have anything you want to toss in here before we do the outro?
I got nothing.
You got nothing. We're good to go.
Nope.
Perfect. Well, we've made it through almost all of March here. We're staring down a couple amateur games here in about 2 or 3 weeks. So that's kind of fun to keep an eye on. Hopefully the snow stays away so we can play these games. I know the high school season, they're forced into it. They're probably playing a lot of scrimmages as we speak, but hopefully we can have some good weather here and jump right into our amateur season. So, alrighty. With all that, we are going to wrap it up tonight. And until next time, have a great week.